Hello everyone, I am Nu-Trix, the synth guy. Today I'm talking about Groovewriter GR-16 from Jim Audio. It's one of these DAWs that most people don't know about because it's from a one-man operation, Jim Pavlov. The thing is pretty cool. Now, I got into knowing about Jim Audio when I released around Christmas my video about my 17 apps I was using in 2017 for making music on my iPad. And that video triggered a lot of comments and questions and suggestions. And in these comments, some of them were pointing me into the direction of different apps that I didn't use and I would probably be interested in. So Jim Audio Groovewriter was somebody who actually suggested, do you know about the GR-16? And I was like, never heard about it. So I looked into it and I wrote to the guy. I say, you want me to test it out? I'm curious about what it is and what I can do with that. And Jim was nice enough to provide me with a copy of Groovewriter. Now, we're in May and I received that in January. So I'm sorry, Jim, about how long it took. But at the same time, it's an app that is a lot more deep. There's a lot more complexity to it than I first thought. So it took me a while to really get around how to use it. That's why I wanted to wait until I was sure that I could actually explain how it works before I get into actually showing you. I will explain a bit of what it is. You might know Jim Audio from Poison 202, which is a very cool synth on the iPad. And it sounds good. It has everything you expect out of a synth. It's got attitude. In GR-16, the synth engine of Poison 202 is there. And you get that same, quality of sound and enough of synthesis to actually create your own stuff. So pretty fun. Now, one thing I want to talk to you about, I want to show you what the Groovewriter is about. Actually, I'm going to go in, I'm going to start recording. So Groovewriter, what's fun about it is you have only one screen. And at the same time, it's a little bit what threw me off because I was looking at all the feature it has and the same knobs and pads are used for different things. So it got me a while to understand that where I was within the app to actually do my stuff. So that's probably got the one thing that threw me off at first. But as you understand the layout of this, it becomes really obvious in how you use it, Just first, explain a little bit what it is. It's a 16-part pattern sequencer if you want. And so all of these 16 pads are used in different ways depending on what you do. By default, when you start, you're in 16 parts. Each of the 16 parts can play an instrument. It could be a bass, a lead, whatever it is, or a drum sound. And each of these have a sequencer. So you've got like a big patterns of 16 different sequencers running at the same time. And you can save all of that as one pattern. So you actually in one pattern you have 16 pattern running of the 16 sounds. For each of the sound you have an effects, an insert effects for each sound, each part separately, and you've got a master effect that can affect all of them. 32 voice of polyphony, you got 16 parts, 32 voice polyphony, 64 notes step sequencer, because you have, it's a blocks of 16, but you've got 4 blocks of 16 steps, so you got 64. It comes with more than 500 samples. Most of them are just drum samples, so one-shot sound, and you have another 27 PCM instrument to choose from. So some of them also have stuff like more analog type of sound because you also have controls over the pulse width modulation and stuff like that. So it gives you a wealth of options. It's really powerful. Everything is real time, so you can automate some stuff. You can actually export it. You can interact between this and the rest of your world with Ableton Link. So that's one option. Or using Audio Bus and be able to, save stuff and copy it from one to the other. By default, it needs to run on iOS 9 to run correctly, and you need at least an iPhone 5 or an iPad Air to run. But it's better to have at least an iPhone 6, to be honest, to run correctly, or an iPad Air 2, or in my case I got an iPad Pro, and I have the iPhone 6, and honestly the two, they do the job. Now, what's interesting about Pavlov, Jim from Jim Audio, he's been a DJ, a remixer, a producer. He started to do his own programming, and that's where he started to build his own stuff. It's obvious, and you'll see when we listen to the demo, that he's a Prodigy fan. It's obvious that you will, if you know anything about Prodigy music, you will see how much of some of the demos are a remix of what Prodigy songs might be. So it also shows you the power of this thing. It can really sound cool. Let's start, okay? What do we have here? We have the pads. We have no sound. I'll bring some volume up. Why don't I have sounds? Oh yeah, because I'm in sequencer. Oh, that's it. Let's go back to trigger. Okay, so you have on the top left the window for everything that happens, and that's where you get the information about what's happening in your wherever you are in the machine. You have the transport section in the middle section. You have write, copy, undo, edit. So these little controls. You've got values on top of write, like pattern and clear, on top of copy, and redo on top of undo. Actually, you need to press shift to these to be functional. You know, to have access to these, you need to press shift. Now, because I'm in trigger mode, what I have right now, I have the name on each of the pads. Oscillator. So these are just like the same sound everywhere. And when I'm triggering, I'm just bringing a single, you know, one note I'm triggering. And when you get into the next one at the bottom, you've got kick, snare, and your drum sound. But you could load only drums if you want, or you can load only synth if you want. It's your choice. You have trigger mode, because now you can play all of them at the same time. You have sequence mode. That's where you just type them in, where you want them in time. Okay, but the one I'm actually typing in right now is the part that I have on screen. So I'm on part 10, if you see at the bottom of that screen here. And you see the 10 light is on for the pad 10 under here. So if I move to the other one, I've got the kick. So I've got these 4 notes here. It's like any other 16 steps. I've got that stuff playing right now. Okay, I can go mute. And muting is when you can see when I'm going to mute, what I have right now in front of me is the on-off value for each of the pads. Now the pads represent the parts. If I go back into sequence, is a sequence of only the part I'm in right now. And to know which one I have, it's either the red light beside the number, like 9 now has a red light, or on your screen, at the bottom of the screen, you got part 9 kick. And it's a 909 drum bass number 1. So this was the first thing I got mixed up. I didn't understand by moving between mute, erase, trigger, sequence, keys, chord, slice, and jump. I didn't know where I was. I was kind of lost in that. That was the first thing that took me a while to get around and understand. So if you're in, let's say, sequence, I'm in sequence from the drum. Now if I want to edit that sequence, because now I'm just having type. Actually, let's try something else. If I go keys, I'm playing the keyboard for the kick you see going up. Okay, let's go now to, let's say, a synth sound. So this one, I'm on part number 1. So that was a sound that I was working on earlier today. So I have these. I have the notes. Okay. Perfect. And I'm going to sequence. I've got these 2 notes. I press play. I go mute, unmute it. That's it. There's just 2 notes playing. One more cut off. I'm cutting the frequencies. Okay, so I got those moving here. I'm happy with that. If I go into sequence, I see these 2 notes, but right now I've got no musical information. I just know time-wise, the first note is on 1, the 7th step is also a note. Now if I want to edit that, there's an edit button just on top of sequence, keys, chords, and slice. I press here and I see it on screen. Now if I press on the first one, that's the one I hear, and that's the one that is blinking on screen. I press on number 7, that one is blinking. If I press anywhere between, it shows me that the time slice is linked to no note. There's nothing linked to those. That's why they're red when I press on it. Press on this one, now I can actually go in, press on the note itself, and with the little knob here, change it to another note. Or here, the length, change the length to longer or shorter. I've got the velocity, I have the time shift, I have the stroke, condition. Condition is interesting, it's really powerful. You can say, look at this, you can say end par. There's in the manual, see all of these, they're really complex, but it's really fun. You can say, well, it's only going to play once the first time that this pattern is played. If it loops another time, this note won't play. Or it can only play when it's the fourth time that you're playing that pattern. So you can actually put a lot of notes here, and some of them will only play the first time, others will play only the fourth time. So one pattern can equal like 8 of them. So it's really powerful. It's really interesting how complex, with this little condition value here, it was able to give a lot of variation of a, one single pattern. You have voice, how many voice you use on this. Well, actually, you can play up to 4 voice on one note. So in this case, on one step, sorry. In this case, you only have 1, but I could enter, polyphonic keys, because this one can be polyphonic up to 32 voice for the whole thing at the same time. So knowing that a kick and a snare usually is the monophonic sound, then you could have more for the, let's say, pads. In this case, this one could be monophonic if I need, because it's just a bass line, so it would be okay. So I'm going to actually get out of this. I'm going to press edit to get out of it. And still on this section here, when I've got the name of the pattern, which is Nu-Trix 1, I've got filter, low pass 1 pole, I've got the modulation is a filter, LFO is sent to the filter. Actually, if I want to see that in detail, I can press on wave, I see information about the wave. If I press on type for the filter, I see the type of filter I have here. I have a 4-pole, I can have a 4-pole with a soft clip, I can have just a low pass soft clip, I've got band pass, high pass, peak, and notch. So all the stuff that you expect from a synthesizer is there, and you have the cutoff value here. If you don't know exactly what you have it on screen, you see the value here, the resonance is here, you have the envelope, how much envelope is sent to this. Now, the envelope, there's only one, and you can actually use it for the amplitude or for the filter, or the two at the same time. You've got a tagged key, sustain release, works okay, it works like it should be. By doing this like this without opening the amplitude envelope here, the envelope that you see here is only being a filter envelope. If I turn this on, it means that at the same time the amplitude right now is just a trigger on off, and that's it. Now if I have also the amplitude turned on, this envelope will be at the same time for the filter and for the amplitude. It does the two at the same time. What you also have here is the modulation. You can select one modulation. There's really a good list of them. So different sources sent to the filter. Different sources, it could be envelope generator going up or down, so inverts if you wanted. LFO BPM synced, saw up, saw down, BPM, square up, square down, sample and hold, this assigned to the pitch, then the same thing assigned to the level, same thing assigned to the pan, to the oscillator, and the effects. So you can also control the effects by this. So it will control this knob here of effects, okay? And you've got the depth, how much you want that modulation to be sent to something, the speed of the modulation, and the glide if you want any glide, which has nothing to do with modulation, but the glide is here. Then you go type, again for effects, you can select the type of effects. There's a real good list here. Plenty, I mean, even a slicer, offbeater, side chaining, slicer, you got flanging, delay, decay, delay, peaking, low pass filter, exciter, ring modulator, bit crusher, distortion, overdrive, decimator. I mean, it can really gives a lot of noise if you want to. So it's really fun. Turn it on or off. Then we got the main effects, which is, you know, master effect. Everything is going to go through this, and you can send to this. Again, if you go on master effect, you've got the list for this if needed. Okay, so that's for this. The amplitude, there's no control here outside of using this amp. You've got the attack, decay, sustain, release, and you can say if you wanted to use these parameters for envelope. This one here will say it's assigned to the filter, and this one say it's going to be assigned also to the amplifier. Now, if you want it to be polyphonic, you turn it on or off if you don't want. The panning and the level at the end. Now you have this little thing here, which is the touchpad, which is really funny. You can have an arpeggiator and with the scale. Okay, what's happening here? Well, the arpeggiator effects control the effects. So this is also can be recorded. It's pretty fun, and you can put it on hold. So you go. So it's going to hold it where it is. If you type it twice, you see you go into the values here. Type it twice, and you have a choice of what is the main or the master effects. Is stereo delay, tape delay, high pass filter delay, reverb looper, pitch looper, vinyl. There's a lot of them again. So you can play with them and figure out which one's the one you like, but it's pretty interesting. Turn it off. If you want to change the scale, type twice on it. You see the scale, chromatic, and all that stuff. You pick the one you prefer. Turn it off. And again, if you want to see that window, you double click on double press on arpeggiator, and then you've got the arpeggiator pattern. Now that's a little bit different, okay, because you see that window has a lot of information, so you can actually move for all of these things here around this. So another way to get into this is actually you're in this, you like it, what you want to have more control, you go into enter, and because you're in pattern mode, you see all of the patterns. So if you go up and down, you're going to go between the different menu if you want, length bar, how many bars you want, up to 4 bar or just 1. Okay, let's say 4 bars for this one. The tempo, you can actually press on it to select or move up and down depending on what you want to do. The tempo, the rhythm bass, the swing, master gain, chain 2, so you actually chain this one to another song, or another pattern. So let's say you do 4 or 5 different patterns, you can change them together so they will actually, and you can have them, the whole chain can repeat. So you can say I'm going to build like 6 of them, and the 6 will repeat 3 times, and that's going to be my song. So it's pretty interesting the way it's almost like a song mode you can have here. There's a key depending on the key you have on your your scale. Actually, you can again move it here if you want. Just turn the knob. The chord set, there's different set of the chords depending on what you choose here. There's arpeggiator pattern. There's a bunch of them. Wait a sec. And we're here. So there's a bunch of them. You've got the arpeggiator mode with 2 finger. 1 finger you press another one, it becomes in latch mode. So you can press again, it leaves. So it's like a hold if you want. You've got the arpeggiator mode down, up. What else do you have? Down, up and down, random, trigger. There's different ones. You've got the octave, how many octave your arpeggiator will be doing its job, and how many repeats it will do. By default, you put it at 1, it's just going to repeat the same one over and over again. You got the master effect hall, you got utilities. Then this is basically editing the part that you have here. You can transpose, you can shift in time by steps, you can quantize, you can reset, you can clear parts, clear automation, empty the pattern, share the pattern with somebody else, render to audio, render to stems. So this is the part where you want to back up your stuff and sending to another machine to mix it if you want to. And you get the render option of up to 32. If you use Ableton Live, again, everybody's compatible with it today. It also does that thing. You go setting here, you've got the quality, you know, 48, 32, 32. It's actually interesting. Can get different sound. Buffer size, Ableton Link, host syncing if you want, master limiter, you can turn it off if you don't want it. Background mode, if you want the music to play as you do something else. Oscilloscope is what you have, and chain mode right now is off. I was talking about that earlier. And then you've got everything about MIDI if you need to, and you can even change the skin to another look if you want to. So I'm going to get out of this window, okay, exit, and you go back to this window. There's stuff here that's really fun to know about. If you want to mute something, press play. You have the mute. Okay? Let's say I want to mute something. You just go, I want to mute these. You can also go shift and press on mute, and it becomes a solo. It should be. Go shift, mute, press on it, it becomes solo. Shift, mute. It's not a good song. You also have something that is nice, which is slice mode. Now, slice mode works if you put your own sample in it. So, which is a cool thing. If you want to put your sample in it, you actually have to hook up your iPad to the computer. You know, in iTunes, you have a section where you can see the apps. You click on the app, and then you've got a window at the bottom when you see the samples or anything that is data relative to that app. That's where you can actually import samples right into the app, and then you see it here. You can actually load in the app, and then when you go into Slice, you'll be able to actually edit them, which I didn't do any for now, but Slice would be for slicing your own loops if you want to. Jump is okay. You can jump directly. You can restart the rhythm where you want it. Okay, so jump is you want to jump back to, so you might want to, you know, reposition your song because it's off. So that's what it is. I mean, this thing is great because it's only one window. Actually not. It's two window. You've got this window I just talked about, and when you go into the menu, you've got all these options here depending on what you need to do. Okay, but there's also another window called Mixer. If you look at the top here, you've got Mixer, and then you've got that screen where you can actually go really rapidly editing, muting, soloing your stuff. So very graphic, very easy to work with. You get the limiter again, turn on and off. So there's many ways to do things. Either you can do it in the graphic way here, or you go into that little list of, you know, more like hardware synthesizer you would have to work with, and that window would work. Now, if you want to change patterns, you actually go, let's go edit. You press on the name of the pattern, then you got these lists of patterns. Now, I was talking earlier that this guy is a fan, and I'm also a fan of Prodigy. There's an example of these songs that shows you what this thing can do. It's really, really interesting. If I'm not mistaken, it's this thing here. I gotta be honest, it sounds cool. I mean, the sounds he has in this thing, it sounds really interesting. You know that song? It's not exactly the same, but Listen to the quality of the sound you have in this. It's really interesting. The drum especially. You need headphones for this. So it's cool. I like it because it took me a while to understand the logic of these little menus here, because he kept everything in one window. And because of that, it took me more time to actually understand how to actually use all these things to get into only that single window. So cool, it works. I'm happy, and I'm really gonna use this. You know, summer's coming. It's time for vacation. I'm gonna be away from the studio. It's gonna be one of the box I'm gonna bring, one of the apps. Of course, I'm gonna bring my iPad, but it's gonna be one app. I'm gonna try to make a whole song with it this summer, because it sounds good. You know, I'm gonna have to practice with it, to like any app, to be comfortable with it. I like the sound quality, the synthesis you have in it. Well, I didn't talk about too much of the wave. I looked at the other one, but if you look at the wave here, you have this. The first section here, you have the saw, the pulse, fine FM synth, sign with a little bit of FM, super saw. Where am I? I'm actually here. I'm gonna go keys. Super saw actually gonna go. This sounds really nice, you know. Again, super saw 1 octave. And then you got 2 octaves, super saw, then you got sync. This sounds also really nice. A very nice sync mode here. You got ring modulation. As I was saying earlier, that this thing is Poison 202 synth into the Groove Rider. It is very powerful. The synth engine for the wave, these are just what you expect from big names audio. So this is, man, Jim, you're doing a good job. You know, it sounds cool. A lot of grit, a lot of presence. I like this. Then you got these things with cross modulation FM. So these are pretty cool and they sound nice. So there's a ton of them. And then you got low noise and chip noise. So these are just the list of sounds or waveform really is wide. Then you got all of these sounds of the kicks, tons of kicks, snares. So these are samples, you know. Okay. And after that, you've got instruments, grand piano. These are, I would say, these are okay, but if you want a real grand piano, you're going to look somewhere else for that. I think that this really shines for the oscillator section, because you've got a very wide range of what you expect from a big synthesizer. You have it here for a fraction of the price. So, great cool little app. Everything is in one box, and that's it. I personally, took me some time to understand how to navigate it, but I'm more than happy with the result. Sound-wise, I think this thing sounds really nice. So as a synth engine, you have what you need. Of course, you've got a very powerful section for the wave, a simple filter, but a lot of choice, simple modulation, because you only have one at a time, unless somebody shows me how to do more. You have 2 envelopes, again, simple, but it's enough, it's an efficient, and the package with everything you have here, I think it's great. And the fact you can actually export it and it talks to other apps, it's a great little piece of gear to compose with. So that's it, guys. I hope this actually helped you understand what Jim is doing and the Groove Rider GR-16 is about. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments. And if you have any comments, again, you know where to put them. And if you like what I'm doing, thumb up, share it with your friends. See you next time with another app or another tool. I don't know. Cheers.